So I want to highlight for you in this first slide my email address. It's jsimon@email.arizona.edu. And we're not going to have an opportunity today to interact and kind of talk about some of um, the activities that I'm going to give you to do today. And so I want you to take down my email address just so that you have it for later so that you can write me. So again, it's jsimon@email.arizona.edu. So I decided to do this talk on self-compassion because I feel like we are brutal with ourselves. And what I hear every day from students and clients, I have no patience, I'm snapping at others, I feel guilty that I'm not doing XYZ, I feel shut down and unmotivated, I am barely surviving right now. I hear that a lot. I can't make myself do anything, and I guess I'm depressed. So I just want to say part of self-compassion is turning directly toward what is going on, not lying to ourselves, and just saying what is here right now. So if you're crying easily, if you get irritated, if you're sleeping too much, if you can't fall asleep, if you're having panic attacks, if you're having fuzzy brain, if you're unmotivated, if you're exhausted, if you feel powerless, if you feel dizzy or nauseous, if you feel numb, or if you want to run away, all of these things are 100% normal. All of these reactions are normal, and in fact, it's called emotional inflammation. And this may be due to our mirror neurons. We may be absorbing what everyone else and social media is giving us to take in. And actually, in our fear, our frontal lobe may actually just be offline. And so our empathy could be offline as well. And so it's really, really hard to care about others when we are not even caring about ourselves. We cannot give anything that we don't have. So I just want to say, if you're here and you're dressed this morning, you are doing a great job. You know, right now we feel like we are our worst selves. And so we need compassion for ourselves and for others. And we need to normalize that this is kind of a really weird situation. This is not the time that we need to be learning Russian or running a marathon. So we're going to do 5 different activities today to foster self-compassion. That is my goal. So let's start with what my definition is of self-compassion. And I recognize that this is maybe a different definition than what you've heard, but I am defining self-compassion today as an ever-deepening self-acceptance. How can I accept myself more? And that's what I think self-compassion is. So if I'm going to use words to describe this, I'm going to say, show me me. Help me accept what is, and teach me how to love me so that I can love others. I can't give from an empty cup. I've got to fill my own cup. So to change a culture, we have to start at the individual level. There's not this culture out there. We can't blame this external society. I've heard so much like people are being so mean, our society's so aggressive. But here's the deal. We can't blame society. I am society. I am culture. And so I have to take responsibility for how I carry my piece in this culture. So let's all just take a deep breath. And this is a sign to the body that you're okay. And you might want to put your hands on your heart and just breathe in and say yes. And then breathe out and say thank you. And I know this sounds strange and you're saying, why am I even saying this? But just do it anyway. So let's breathe in and say yes. And let's breathe out and say thank you. So we know that when you wake up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and your thoughts are going, the best way to calm yourself down is to write thank you notes, because that is the quickest way that our heart rate doesn't start racing and we don't start panicking. So again, this idea of gratitude and just saying thank you. Let's do this exercise one more time. Breathe in and say yes. And then breathe out and say thank you. Gratitude is so soothing to the body. So before we start, I want you to grab some type of paper and pen to write with, or your laptop, so that you can make notes. And I want you to get ready to kind of answer. Like I said, we have 5 different activities to encourage self-compassion. And so, grab whatever you're happy writing with and let's get started. Now, I admit we are not going to have the time today to kind of go into these the way that I would like. I would like to give you 20 minutes per writing exercise. I'd like for you to write your candles and have a nice cup of tea and be ready in your pajamas to kind of dig deep into self-compassion. But we're not going to have that. We're probably going to have 2 minutes. So what I want you to do is really think about these prompts. And if you're not in the headspace to do it right now, take a screenshot of the prompt, and then later tonight, get ready to go back and kind of look deeper at some of these topics. So let's start out by looking at our deeper, truer self. So I know, this is my belief system, I could be completely off base, but I believe that we are 100% born as a giant light ball, and there is nothing wrong with us. We are a vibrant, excited, alive little golden light ball. But as we go through life, life kind of hurts. People are mean and they do weird things. And so as a result, we kind of cover our light. Like we kind of put on fear-based coats all around us. But here's what I know. Underneath all of those fear-based coats, we are a true golden center. We have that, every single person. So we don't need to reach out for guidance. We need to reach in. So you can call it by whatever name you would like. You can call it by your true self, your older, wiser self, true north, your spirit, your soul, your inner guidance, your Buddha nature, your gut, your God self, your angels, your guides. It doesn't really matter what you call it, just as long as it kind of makes sense to you. Just know we have this deeper self. This exists in all of us, and it hasn't been damaged by life or by trauma. And this is a deep knower. And it's always there. We can always tap in. We just have to take off the coats of fear. And here's what I know. This is an expanded, alive voice. And this expanded, alive voice, this voice loves everyone. And this self loves us. And so if we're talking about self-compassion, this is the straight way directly to it. So compassion is not something that we put on like a coat, or we don't grab it from the outside. Compassion is not coming from outside of us. We are not compassion vacuums sucking compassion out of a book or a quote. Compassion actually just rises quite naturally out of us. It's sort of our birthright. So when you're connected to that deep golden center, compassion comes out of us. That's a natural impulse to kind of care about ourselves and others and the planet. And so you may be asking, how can I possibly find compassion if I feel flat, or I feel numb, or I feel tuned out? So let's start with how to connect to our true north self. So I have figured out 2 ways today that we are going to connect with it. So again, get your paper out. So the first way to connect with your golden center is to write a letter to yourself from your older, wiser self. So you're just going to start in, Dear Jenny, I'm so proud of you. You showered today. You ate breakfast. Good job. So you want to talk to yourself as if you're talking to your best friend. You want to write yourself guidance and support, and you want to be kind and nurturing. So let's start that right now. You're not going to be able to finish the letter, but start it. So everybody take out a piece of paper and write a letter to you now from your older, wiser, deeper, true north self. So I'm going to give you like a few minutes. I know we don't have very much time, but I'm going to give you a few minutes. And remember, if you kind of light candles and you put your soft music on, you can really kind of get into this deeper place that's not so rattled by all the things going on in our world. So I'm going to give you just a couple more seconds to wrap up your thoughts. If you want to take a screenshot of this slide, that's a great idea. So you can come back to this exercise when you're in the right headspace. But again, remember, you're writing from kind of a deeper knowing. You're going underneath your mask. Okay, the next way that we can kind of touch into our true north is we engage in kind of a dialogue with it, sort of like a script. So again, we kind of get quiet. And the quieter we are, the more we're going to be able to hear. And you're going to write out the conversation on paper. And you're going to put your name next to your question. And then you're going to put whatever name that you've named your inner wiser self, you're going to put that underneath it. So you can use initials, and the result kind of looks like a script. And I've put it right here on this slide. Don't worry if you feel silly or you think that you're making it up, just write. So it is going to look like this. I'm going to write, hey, True North, are you there? And then I'm going to listen. And then it's going to answer me, yes, I'm always here. And by the way, my True North is much quieter and softer than I am. And then I'm going to say, are you real? And the message is going to come through. I'm right here. And then I'm going to say, should I do a talk about getting in touch with your true voice? And then the answer is going to be, yes, it's the perfect time. Right? I have to wait a little bit in between this dialogue to kind of make sure I'm hearing. But again, practice. Do this a couple times. Maybe the first time you're going to feel silly, and then do it again another night when you're tired or something like that. I do this exercise pretty much every night. I do a gratitude journal, and part of my practice is to connect to kind of my true self. And so I do this every night. I kind of do a series of question and answers. And that way you're not reaching out into the world to try to get your answers, try to get your compassion. You are your own source of, love and gentleness and knowledge. All right, so I promised 5 exercises. So those were 2. We could write a letter to ourselves from our older, wiser self from the future to now. Or we could do kind of a script where we're talking back and forth with our true north. And then these are 2 journal prompts. Now, these are going to be a little bit tougher. I want to warn you, you do not have to be a good writer, but you do have to be truthful. So you have to be willing to kind of get honest and tell yourself the truth. And if you don't want to write, that's fine. You can make a little lists. But I want you to get out of judgment. I don't want you to evaluate your writing. This is not a writing exercise. You are not sharing this with anyone. The goal is that you're honest. And what I know is that when people are under pressure, they act out of fear and self-preservation. We are not in either of those 2 things. We are not under pressure. So you are instead trying to get underneath the mask that you show to the world. And the mask that you show to the world is the one where you get on that Zoom call and you tell people, I'm great today, I'm fine, when you're really not. So let's just get real and get underneath there. And I will warn you, these are a little intense. So your first journal prompt, again, take out a piece of paper or your computer, and I want you to just take a few minutes and write, what areas of your life do you feel inauthentic? Where do you feel dishonest? And then be specific. And I will tell you, I've heard a lot lately about people feeling like imposters. And so you may say, Jenny, what does this have to do with self-compassion? Don't worry, we'll get there. But for now, just write for a few minutes, what areas in your life do you feel inauthentic or dishonest, and be really specific. Maybe you take a deep breath because this is intense. Remember to say, okay. You can do that, yes, and thank you. And again, we're not going to have a lot of time for you to kind of explore this topic like you should. You really should take like a good 15 minutes to really look at this and write about it. But we're not going to have that. So if you want to, please take a screenshot of this slide and write it down so that you have it for later. I think this is a super important journal prompt. So take a few more minutes and maybe make a little note to yourself, maybe some bullets or a list of some things that you really want to go back and kind of capture around this. I think this is a pretty heavy journal prompt. And I know I would never ask you to do anything that I have not done myself. And I know when I got this journal prompt for the first time, I was kind of like, ugh. And I kind of had to walk around a little bit. So again, if you're not in the headspace right now, that's fine. Just take a few seconds, write it down so you remember, and then go back to it and kind of address this super important prompt. All right, unfortunately, I have to move on to the next. So the reason why I ask you to do that is because when we feel inauthentic or when we feel like an imposter, this is when we are interacting in the world from the layer of fear coats. So we are trying to navigate and figure everything out from a layer of fear. And so we need to come home. We need to come back to our real true self. It's here. It's waiting for us. You can check in every single day. Our true north is where our compassion lives. This is where love hangs out. So if I feel like an imposter or I feel inauthentic, it's because I'm acting from way out here. I need to get home. I need to come home. So that's why that activity is just so vital for you to really take the time and go back and ask yourself, where am I being dishonest? Where do I feel inauthentic? Okay, so here's our second journal prompt. And this is, what areas of your life would you like to be more compassionate to yourself? And why? And how? And what choices would you have to make if you were being more compassionate? So maybe you're one of those super achievers who wears the mask like, I am capable, I am large, I am in charge. And maybe you need to drop a little bit of that because right now you're kind of struggling or you're feeling tired or fatigued. And so how would you have to make choices to kind of change that a little bit? So I want you to get really specific about what areas, not just like I'd like to be nicer about the way I eat, like get really specific. Where do you need to be more compassionate to yourself? And again, we've only got a few minutes, so make sure you screenshot the screen or you write down the question so that you have it, so that you can always go back to it. All right, so take a few more seconds to kind of maybe make a list or jot yourself some notes about how you would like to be more compassionate in certain areas and come back to this prompt. Okay, and then our last one, let's recap first before we go into our fifth one. So we've had kind of 4 different journaling exercises, if you will. The first one was we sat down, we had candles and music in our pajamas, and we kind of wrote a soft, gentle note to ourselves from the future, from our older, wiser self. And we're writing it looking upon us right now. The second way was that we were going to kind of make it like a script. So I'm going to have a dialogue with my internal true north, and I'm going to be like asking a question, listening for the answer, asking a question, listening for the answer. And I'm going to kind of script it out that way. The third kind of writing thing that we were going to do is we were going to sort of look at areas in our life where we feel like we are being inauthentic, because that's the mask. That is the coats of fear blocking this natural compassion that just wants to rise up. And then our last prompt was to look at the ways that we need to be more compassionate to ourselves and what specific areas we need to be compassionate to ourselves. All right, so now that we've kind of gone in, let's go out a little bit. So let's think about a person who causes us great pain. And I know this doesn't seem very like compassionate, but I want us to just really picture them. And I have done this exercise with somebody who I really struggled with, and this really helped me. So the best way to do this is to really visualize the person. I mean, if you have a picture of them, that's great. But if you can really get a good visual of this person who is just causing you so much pain, let's just like hold that visual for a few seconds here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to visualize this person that's creating great pain. And I want you to kind of repeat these phrases after me as you're thinking about the person that's creating pain. So I want you to hold the picture and then say, just like me, this person is seeking some happiness for their life. Okay, then hold the picture, and then I'm going to say the words and you repeat after me. Just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering. Okay, and then see their face. Just like me, this person has known sadness and loneliness and despair. And just like me, this person is seeking to fulfill their needs. And then just like me, this person is learning about life. And I want you to feel that. This person who's causing great pain, they are doing exactly the same human experience as you are. And they are struggling just exactly the same as you are. And so they are not out here. They are a part of everything that we are experiencing. And then the last one is to visualize them and try to see if there's another place that you come together. Just like me, this person is trying to do a really good job at work and trying to really make a difference. I mean, we have a conflict of interest about how that's happening, but just like me, they're trying to do a good job. They want to be seen. I don't know what your fill in the blank is going to be, but again, you're holding a space, you're seeing them in your mind's eye, and you're saying, just like me, this person is blank. And I hope you can really start to see them as less of kind of a monster and sort of like, okay, this person is having human experience. Now, this in no way lets them off of the hook for being a jerk face. And this doesn't mean that you're necessarily forgiving them or you're excusing their behavior. All you're doing is you're just taking a few minutes to acknowledge their humanity, just like me. Just like me. Okay, and then last but not least, I wanted to give you a slide of all of the people that I am standing on their shoulders. None of this is my original work. It's all given to me by these other brilliant humans who are doing this work on the planet. I think a really great place to start, if you're like, I'm numb and I'm kind of shut down and I don't really care, start with David Attenborough's new movie. It's on Netflix. It's called A Life on Our Planet. And when you watch it, you just are filled with so much of a sense of like the greatness of our planet and kind of how small we are in comparison. And so that's a great place to kind of open up your heart with our good mirror neurons and kind of feel all the feels. And so that's a great place. But a lot of these folks have amazing books out there. I specifically not only put their name, but put kind of a, next to them, kind of a detail about the tools that I like, or the book that I like, or the specific practice that I like that they do. I mean, Pema has like a million great books out there, but I really think her Tonglen practice is really quite spectacular, although it is kind of the PhD of meditation, so I wouldn't start there. But again, I urge you to continue this journey. Self-compassion is a constant, ongoing look at ourselves behaving. And again, it's that whole idea of radical self-acceptance. How do I accept myself as I am? And so it's a journey, and we might need a couple tools on the way. So I wish you luck on your journey. Thank you for joining me this morning. And I